Well, this is going to be a fun video. Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, went down to Washington to visit with Donald Trump. And what ensued? Well, a whole lot of trolling. But who was the butt of the joke here? The Canadian voter. Ladies and gents, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Clyde. Welcome to the channel. The subscribe button is just down there, so go hit that. Let's get right into this story. There is no better way of articulating this except to say, if North America was a hotel room, Canada would be that chair in the corner. If you don't get the joke, go ask your teenage kids. Anyway, let's move on with this one. Donald Trump, ahead of this, was asked, what are you going to be talking about? What's going to be on the agenda when the Prime Minister Mark Carney comes to America to talk to you? Well, he pretty well laid it out, and it was very predictable.
There's a lot of companies from Canada are moving into the United States. You know, everybody's moving back into the U.S., and he's probably going to be asking about tariffs. They're losing a lot of companies in Canada. They're coming into they left here. They left here 20 years ago when presidents that sat right at this desk weren't doing their job properly. They were probably good politicians, but they weren't good at business, and they allowed these companies to leave. And all they had to do is do what I'm doing right now. And, you know, I'm not saying it's the easiest thing to do, but it is. It's effective.
It is effective. And, well, you're probably wondering about the tariffs. Well, we're going to get into that at the end of the episode, so make sure you watch to the end, but also make sure that you subscribe to the channel. YouTube's been telling me that a lot of you have been watching the videos, but aren't actually subscribed to the channel, so make sure you do that. Now, the visit, this is a Toronto Star sulking about this one. Mark Carney visit ends with no deal, despite Donald Trump predicting Canada will be very happy with Washington trade talks. Very happy indeed. Well, somebody who's very happy in this whole thing would be Mark Carney. At the end of the day, he's the one really profiting from this as he loots Canada via his businesses like Brookfield. And a lot of people are pontificating that Donald Trump would have something to do with this. Mind you, there may be connections between Carney and Trump, but when you're talking about the top echelon of like real estate and business in the New York area, you're definitely going to have some overlap. And if there seems like there's seeming connections, you might see those, but I doubt they have anything to do with each other, or else you might see a different picture and a different sort of I guess, relationship between Donald Trump and Mark Carney. But this is the one that's been bothering a lot of Canadians on Twitter's space, and that's been the fact that they got along so well in this. Now let's get to this. Bradshaw putting this out there saying, I thought Trump had to respect Canada first before any deals with the U.S. Carney got rid of the tariffs and now bragging about trillions of dollars going to the U.S. Only reason Trump likes Carney because he's easily controlled.
But yeah, and if I may, let's be clear about the relationship as it stands right now. We are the second largest trading partner of the United States. We do a lot of trade going across the border where we're cooperating, first thing. Secondly, we are the largest foreign investor in the United States. $500 billion in the last 5 years alone, probably $8 trillion in the next 5 years if we get the agreement that we expect to get. Thirdly, there are areas, as the president just said, where
I'd like to say, just add to that, I think that's a little bit of an overstatement. I mean, SoftBank, a company from Japan, invested $500 billion, half a trillion dollars into the country just recently. So to say that Canada is doing all that much by doing the same thing that one company from a tiny little island nation in the Pacific, it's an overstatement. But $1 trillion, he's saying, that's a third of our GDP, our annual GDP that he's promising to invest in the United States. Where's the investments in Canada? A lot of people are asking.
Conflict, maybe not so much conflict, we compete. There are areas where we compete, and it's in those areas where we have to come to an agreement that works. But there are more areas where we are stronger together, and that's what we're focused on. and we're going to get the right deal for America, right deal, obviously, from my perspective, for Canada.
Obviously, for this guy's perspective, because his perspective is Brookfield and getting his investments out of the country and looting the country, essentially. A lot of this is, more government investment for products, services rendered, not actual infrastructure that the Canadians need in this case. And then, of course, this is where it goes. Mark Carney praises Trump, says Canada supports his efforts. Trump is the best at everything. I thought, what happened to the elbows up? This is amazing. So many people voted for this guy. Of course, we all know the type that brought this guy in, and it doesn't seem like he's very much along the lines of what his campaign promises were. This is amazing.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's an honor to have the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, who I have made very popular. He's an extremely popular Prime Minister.
Now, I want to point this out. Donald Trump is trolling Canada so hard right here by saying, I like Mark Carney. I think he's great. He's the best. In the campaign, he said he would prefer Mark Carney because he'd rather deal with a liberal. Now, this is the reality of the situation. All those people that thought that Mark Carney was going to be tough on Donald Trump, they're all disappointed because, yeah, Donald Trump wanted Mark Carney in because he's a pushover. That's right. And what are all those elbows up people getting? Well, they're getting exactly this. They're getting not much of anything. And then Donald Trump is doubling down saying, I like this guy. You were supposed to hate Mark Carney. You were supposed to not like Mark Carney, but he's going forward and he's saying to all those people that have Trump derangement syndrome, which is a real thing in Canada, by the way. You should get your cream, you should get your Trumpanol, apply it liberally to any area that's affected on you, by the way. Trump derangement syndrome is very, very prevalent in Canada. It's an epidemic like we've never seen, blows COVID out the window. But nonetheless, he's really rubbing it in, for lack of a better pun. He's rubbing it in to these people saying, oh, I love Carney. He's the best. Why? I'm glad you all voted for him because he's such a pushover.
And I'm very honored to do it because I liked him. Right from the beginning, I've liked him, and we've had a good relationship. We have some natural conflict, but we'll probably work that out. But we've had a very strong relationship, and your hosting of the various countries that showed up, that was a beautiful job you did, and I appreciate it very much. And Mark, it's an honor to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If I may, you kindly hosted me and some of my colleagues a few months ago, and I said at the time, you are a transformative president. And since then, the transformation in the economy, unprecedented commitments of NATO partners to defense spending, peace from India, Pakistan through to Azerbaijan, Armenia, disabling Iran as a force of
Okay, enough of this groveling. It's just gross. It's absolutely gross, but this is what's been happening. Now, what was pointed out was a really interesting moment between Donald Trump and Carney, where Trump pulled out the usual troll of calling for a merger between Canada and the United States, the 51st state, as you will. Now, this is the official White House rapid response accounts that highlighted this, which I think is so much funnier because it wasn't just the usual suspects on X. This is an official White House account.
And now, and I'm running out of time, but this is in many respects the most important.
The
what
merger
you created
of Canada
no,
and the
what
United
you
States.
have created.
I'm only kidding.
That wasn't where I was going.
I'm only kidding. He is only kidding, but people take it so incredibly serious. Now, what actually happened with this? Trump says Canada will love the U.S. again, but there's still no deal on tariffs after Carney's meeting. No, it went nowhere. What was the real purpose of this meeting? Well, the real purpose of this meeting, in my estimate, was the fact that there was recently a meeting with the Alberta Prosperity Project down in Washington, D.C., where the Trump administration has made signals to say that if there is a successful referendum in Alberta, the Trump administration will be recognizing the state of Alberta, the country of Alberta, its own independent country. And if that happens, well, the rest of Canada can't say tickety-boo about them leaving the country. This is the reality of the situation. You're not going to go up against a military superpower and what they're recognizing as a independent state. But nonetheless, this is where we're at. Not only that, Alberta would prosper if they didn't have to deal with the tariffs. That's right. Now, these are the tariffs before and after 7 months of Mark Carney. Where are the tariffs? How much have the elbows up crowd really helped out this situation in Canada? Well, it's helped out very little. In fact, it's actually made things much more worse. This could have been actually much better for Canadians had they done nothing. Had they literally said, okay, sir, we're just going to deal with that. No, but instead they raised this stink. They made a big show about it, and it's actually been much worse. So what happened before? It was softwood lumber was at 14.4%. Energy 10, critical minerals 10, potash 10, steel and aluminum 25, other non-USMCA goods at 25%. And after 7 months, we're sitting here at softwood lumber being 35%, a massive increase. Energy, critical minerals, and potash are all the same at 10. Steel and aluminum has jumped up 50% to 50% from 25%. That's a 100% increase. That's right. Thank you, Mark Carney. Other non-USMCA goods has jumped up to 35%. That's a 10% increase on that. 10% from 25%, so 35% total. Now adding cars and trucks at 25% and copper at 50%. Also, softwood lumber is up 45.16%. Cabinets and wood furniture now is added to this at 25%. What good is this for Canadians? Well, not very good at all. Not very good at all. And in fact, this is going to be a big issue for a lot of Canadians moving forward. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean? Well, it means that the trades deals have changed. Now, across the board, I think it's across the world, tariffs that to enter the U.S. market across the entire economy of these countries is for goods exported and imported into the United States is on average about 16%. Canada had a better deal where 85% of their goods had no tariffs. And then the rest had a 14% tariff on, well, softwood lumber, for example. And this is a deal that could have been negotiated down. We could have got down to maybe a 10% tariff as we move into this new era of trade with the United States, where everyone entering the United States is going to have to pay a tariff unless your company moves to the United States. When, in fact, this has been happening across the board in Canada. In Ontario, Doug Ford has been making measures to try to thwart that, which has actually exacerbated it even more, just like Mark Carney has done in Canada as a whole. So what's the best move moving forward? Probably to behave a bit more like the other countries around the world and renegotiating new deals with the United States, as July next year will be the deadline for renegotiating with the USMCA. We might see that USMCA disappear and having tariffs growing across the board in all Canadian goods going into the United States. But we'll see what happens. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.